is a mnemonic device to help us figure out what is what. Okay, so we have sine. Let's label this triangle first. We've talked about all of these words before. Opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. We've talked about these before. Which one is the hypotenuse on this triangle? Which side is the hypotenuse?
Across from the 90 degrees.
Across from the 90. Yep, opposite of that 90. So label that side hypotenuse. Label that side. That is our hypotenuse. Okay, so we labeled our hypotenuse. What is the opposite? We're going from this angle right here. What's opposite of this angle? Which side? The short leg, so this side. Okay, so opposite, we're coming across. So label that side opposite. You can abbreviate if you would like to. Okay, and then the other side, adjacent. What does adjacent mean? Think way back.
Right next to it.
Right next to. So here, right next to is here. Is the hypotenuse also right next to?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's the hypotenuse because it's right across from that right angle. So adjacent is the other side next to it. So if this angle got moved to here, would they all still stay the same?
No.
No, right? The opposite would now be
Here.
here, and the adjacent would be
Here.
here. What stays the same? Yep. So, back up here. Which side doesn't change if I move the angle to the other side?
Hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse will never change because why?
It's the hypotenuse.
Because why?
The 90 degrees across.
Right, it's always across from that 90 degree. Remember, I've always stressed, draw that line to help you remember where that hypotenuse is. Okay? So, we've talked about all of those three before, so now let's make connections to our trig ratios. What's a ratio? A ratio is a ratio.
Good ratio.
What? It wasn't chapter 7. Remember ratio we thought of as fractions? Remember ratio? Fraction. Okay? So with sine, use SOHCAHTOA to help you. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite, I'm going to abbreviate. Opposite over hypotenuse. So from this angle measure here, opposite over hypotenuse. Okay? So what is cosine? Ca. Okay, so what's A stand for? Adjacent.
Over hypotenuse.
Yep, over hypotenuse. And then tangent, toa.
Opposite.
There you go. Opposite over adjacent. Okay, so we're going to use those trig ratios to help us find missing angle measures now, or missing sides. So we're using these trig ratios just like we use 45, 45, 90, and 30, 60, 90. Okay? I'm going to skip the steps for solving for now. Let's go down to finding each ratio. Let's do K together. Where is angle K at in this picture? It's that top one. Circle it. Something, put that theta in there. That's the angle we're going from. Everyone label that. Of K. So sine, look back up above. What's the ratio for sine?
Opposite.
Opposite over hypotenuse. So from K, what's opposite?
24.
24. So put 24 is opposite. And then what's the hypotenuse? 26 because it's across from the right angle. Okay, what's wrong with that ratio? What did we learn about ratios? You can, what'd you say? Simplify, reduce. What can we reduce both of these by? I heard it over there, 2. What's 24 divided by 2? 12. 26 divided by 2? 13. Yep, so you always want to simplify ratios when you can. All right? What's the next one? Cosine? What's cosine of K? What's the ratio for cosine?
Adjacent hypotenuse.
Yep, adjacent over hypotenuse. So for K, what's adjacent to K? I heard 10. It is 10. So 10 is adjacent. And then hypotenuse is what? Is the hypotenuse ever going to change?
No.
No. What do we do next? Yep, reduce. Divide by 2. I heard we got 5 over 13. Yep. Last one, tangent. What's the ratio for tangent? Yep. Remember, we're going from K. What's opposite of K? 24. And then what's adjacent to K? 10.
Divide by 2.
Right. We reduce, divide by 2, we get what?
5 over 12.
Careful. You flipped it. Yep. 12 over 5. Yep.
Right. Well,
Yep. Do the M now. Sine, cosine, and tangent of M. So erase your K. We're going from M now. I want you to try it on your own. Remember, you're going from M. Sine is what ratio?
10 over 26.
Opposite over hypotenuse. So what's opposite of M?
10.
Remember, opposite, we're cutting across that triangle. So opposite is 10. Hypotenuse is 26. If it helps, draw that line. 26. What do we divide by? Yep. Why are we reducing? To simplify, yep. 5 over 13. Cosine, what's the ratio for cosine? Yep, what's adjacent? Remember, we're going from M.
24 over 26.
Yep, 24 over 26.
12 over 13.
There you go, 12 over 13. Last one, tangent. What's ratio for tangent? Opposite over adjacent. What's opposite of M? 10. What's adjacent? 24. Yep. Divide by 2, we get 5
Over 12.
over 12. Good. So do you notice that they are not exactly the same from each angle? You notice how those sides change? Okay, so it's important to know what side or what angle you're going from. Okay? Questions about the trig ratios before we move on? 1 to 5. To those steps for solving. Now we're going to solve just like we were with those special right triangles over there last week. Okay? So step 1 to solving, what do we always usually do?
Figure out the sides.
Figure out the sides. Before that, we always used to circle, right? So this is going to be labeling those sides. We're labeling the sides. We're labeling the sides.
Set up
Okay?
a trig ratio.
Step 2, set up trig ratios or identify what those ratios are.
Solve the equation.
Okay? Close. What do you have to do before you solve?
Calculate.
You got to prepare it. You got to write it. So we got to write the equation. And then what's always the last step? Solve. Yep. So we're still following those same steps that we did for those two triangles over there. Okay? So label, identify, write, and solve. So let's try it. So we want to find our missing side, just like we were over here. But can we use those like we did last week?
Yes.
No, why not?
Because it's not the same.
Because 36, is that in any of these?
No.
No, so we have to use trig. Okay? Reference angle, that's the angle that they give us. What angle do they give us other than the 90? 36. So label your reference angle as 36. Now we're labeling our sides. What's our hypotenuse?
1.12.
Yep, that's a cross from that right angle. So we have 11.2. What's opposite of 36?
Nothing.
Nothing. I'm just going to put a line through it, or you can leave it blank. What is adjacent to 36? X. Okay, now we have to figure out what trig ratio we're using. So they gave us the hypotenuse and adjacent. Which trig ratio up above
Cosine.
is
Cosine.
hypotenuse and adjacent? Cosine. So we're, use SOHCAHTOA to help you. So the trig ratio we're using is cosine. Okay, so what you just did was step 1 and 2. We labeled and we identified what ratio we're going to use. Okay, now we have to write.
X over 11.
Okay, this is going to be new to us. We have to write our equation. What did you just say?
X over 11.2.
You used the ratio? Okay, so we have x over 11.2. But we're writing an equation. What's going to be on the other side?
36 cos.
Right, we're going to use cosine of our angle. Okay, the reason. Now we have it set up. Now we have to solve. What are we solving for? What are we normally solving for?
Adjacent.
We're trying to find adjacent, but it's our X value. Okay, so we're solving like normal. How can we solve this for X? What do we do if we have a fraction on one side but we don't have it on the other? Make a fraction. Okay, cosine of 36, what can we do with that? Yep, put over 1. Now, what method are we going to use to solve?
Fish.
Not fish. What's it called? Cross multiply. Okay, cross multiply. So we have cosine of 36 times 11.2. I'm going to write that out so we all know what's going on. Cosine of 36 times 11.2. What's on the other side? The x, right? 1 times x is x. Yep. Good. You want to round to the nearest hundredth. So, hang on. What did we just find? The adjacent, which is what of the triangle? It's a side length, right? So we're using trig to find side lengths. Yes? Okay, go try number 2 on your own. Okay, we want to find x, which is a side length. Okay? What is our reference angle? Or what angle do they give us? 52. Okay. Now working down, what's the hypotenuse? Yep, remember across from that right angle, 7.4. Opposite, some of us got these flipped around. Remember opposite, we're going across the triangle. So opposite is x. Do we have an adjacent? Remember adjacent's that side connected to it. So there's no adjacent. Now connect those. Out of those 3, what did they give us? The hypotenuse and opposite. Remember hypotenuse and opposite. Which trig ratio uses both of those? Sine. Oh, did you say so?
Yeah.
Sine. So how do I set up my equation now?
Equals x over 7.4.
Right. Opposite over hypotenuse. You are all right. Okay. Now how can I solve? Put it over 1 and then what's it called? What's it called?
Fish method.
Cross multiply.
Oh,
So we have sine
oh my god.
52 times 7.4.
This equals 5.83.
What'd you get?
5.83.
Yep. So you get x equals 5.83. If you're not getting 5.83, your calculator's in the wrong mode. If you're getting the wrong number, let me know and I'll switch it. Okay? That looks different. And it's number 4, top right. Okay? So what is our reference angle? 43 is our reference angle. Whoa. 43 is our reference angle. What is our hypotenuse? X. How do you know where the hypotenuse is? Not the long side, it's across from 90. Yep. Opposite.
32.5.
Yep. Remember, we're going from here. So opposite would be 32.5. What is adjacent? Nothing, right? None of it. So what trig ratio uses hypotenuse and opposite? Sine. Sine.
I'm gonna keep going.
Sine. So how do we set this up?
It is
32.5.
Sine of 43. Yep. And then opposite is
32.5
over
over x.
x. So how do I solve? Yep, we're going to end up dividing because, let's walk through this. Cross multiply, we have sine of 43 times x. And then what's on the other side? Yep, because we get 1 times 32.5 to get 32.5. How do we get x by itself?
sin 43, and then
Divided by 32.
yes. You want to do sin 43.
What's the relationship happening between sine of 43 and x? Is it adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing right now?
Dividing.
It's multiplying right now, so how do we get rid of it?
Divide.
Divide. Okay, so we're going to divide by sine of 43 on both sides. So instead of multiplying this time, you're going to divide
0.023.
Yeah, I did too.
first.
Would it be 46 47.66.
65. 47.65.